What is going on, everybody? Sure that all of our audio is good and that we have a great connection on the other end. Cool. All right. I see we got some familiar folks here in the chat. We have Mr. Michael Wilkinson, Real World Dev. I sure hope so. We got some great folks coming around. We have some nice chats. Keep the chat coming, folks. We're going to be super excited for this one. Introductions, I guess, are due right now. So, hi everyone. I'm Mike. I'm on the DevRel team here at Ionic. Today, I am joined by.
I'm Liam. I am the lead engineer on Ionic Framework.
Awesome. We are. Hello, Mike and Liam. Well, hello to you as well. We are here to do a fantastic little run through over everything we got started in Ionic 6. We're going to show off some of the cool components, even like a little demo, I hear. I would hope so. I prepared the demo, so fingers crossed everything goes smoothly, but I am pretty excited. Before we go further, let's get that audio up a little bit louder. I had someone say that my voice was really quiet and can't have that today. So, Liam, why don't you take us off? We're going to run through a quick little presentation, folks, and then we'll get on to the demo.
Awesome. Yeah. Let me get those
Liam,
queued up. All right,
cool.
You ready?
So, let's get the screen up, and I'll remove myself. So, Liam, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And thank you to whoever likes my rounded mirror. It was a very, very impulse buy at Marshall's, and I'm very happy with it. So thank you. I'm glad you like it too. All right. So once again, I'm Liam, the lead engineer on Ionic Framework, and I'm going to be telling you about what's new in Ionic 6. So for those of you who don't know what Ionic 6 is, Ionic is our open source UI toolkit. It's got over 100 UI components that you can build cross-platform mobile applications with. We've got Angular support, React support, Vue support, and you can even use no framework at all if you just want to use our components. It's a cross-platform adaptive UI toolkit, and we just released Ionic 6 late last year. Really recommend you check it out. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today? So we've got some new components coming in Ionic 6, improved desktop support, new tooling options, even better performance than we did in Ionic 5. We've updated to the latest iOS and Android designs, and most importantly, we have an easy upgrade experience. So let's jump right in. First is our material inputs. So we completely revamped our inputs to look like the brand new material design style. So we have this outline style, as you see on the right. We also have a filled style. This is available on the Ion item components, and you can get documentation right on our doc site, little code snippet to copy and paste. It looks really, really nice. Super modern, super slick. I'm really happy with how that came out. One of our new iOS additions is the fade header and footer. This one I really like. It's a very subtle effect, but I've been seeing it all across iOS recently. So basically what it is when you start your view, the header and the footer, the background color, it's transparent, it's invisible. And as you scroll, the background color will fade in. This is a pretty new effect. I think it is, iOS 14, iOS 15, but I'm seeing it all over the place, and it's a really, really slick effect. I'm seeing it used a lot in the card style modals, especially in stock iOS apps. So I'm very excited that we were able to add that to iOS or to Ionic in iOS mode. You can access it by using the collapse property on Ion header and Ion footer, and we take care of the rest. So it's a super slick effect, really easy to get set up with. One of our new components is Accordion. So Accordion makes it really easy to organize and expand and collapse large amounts of information in an easy to digest way. It's got super smooth animations, really easy to use. You could customize the icon, you can customize the colors, the arrangement, all that good stuff. I think one of my favorite features here is that it automatically ties in with your accessibility preferences. So if you have on your phone the reduced motion accessibility preference set, the Ion Accordion component will automatically respond to that. And so when you tap to open or close an accordion, the animation will actually be disabled automatically. That's a really, really nice accessibility feature that's just built in, and it just works as you'd expect right out of the box. You can also control it with the animated property. So if you want finer grain control over that. I've been seeing people use these all over the place in modals and menus. It's really great to see all the different ways that people are using their new components. Another great one, this is great for larger form factors, particularly tablets, is Breadcrumbs. So Breadcrumbs is really great if you have complex navigation, right? If you're going many pages deep, if you're doing multi-stack navigation, such as with tabs, having Breadcrumbs, having that trail of like where you were, where you are currently, how you got there, and how you get back is really, really important to show to your users sort of like the context of where they are in their application. You can also collapse the breadcrumbs. So if you have a lot of items, you can collapse them into a button as you see in the demo on the right, and you can click it and you can present a popover that'll show you all the different options. Again, really, really great for larger form factors such as tablets. This one, this is my second favorite one. I think my top favorite feature in V6 is the bottom sheet component, but this is my second favorite one. So this is the brand new datetime component in Ionic 6. We spent weeks, months completely revamping the datetime component to use this brand new calendar picker design that you see across iOS and Android apps. It's got built-in dark mode. It's got incredibly smooth, slick performance. You can see the swiping animation is really, really smooth. It's got brand new localization features that I'll get into in a second. So it's got an all new form factor, completely redesigned. We've also simplified the API so that a lot of things just work right out of the box. Really excited. People have been asking me about this for a while, so I'm glad to finally get this out the door in Ionic 6. So specifically with datetime that I want to show off, and this is a feature that I'm pretty excited about, is the new localization options in Ionic 6. So previously in Ionic 5, if you wanted to localize your component, say you wanted to display the month names in a particular language, you had to provide the component with an array of every single localized string name for each month. You had to do that for every month. You had to do it for the days of the week. You had to use the short names. It was a lot of work. And so in Ionic 6, we're able to leverage the latest web technology to automatically determine the locale, right, the region and the language based upon whatever's set on your device. So if your phone is set to Spanish, the date time component, the months are already automatically going to be shown in Spanish. You can also control it with this locale property that we've added. So if you need finer grained control, you can customize the locale. Another great thing is the hour cycle, right? So some places use, say, 1 o'clock p.m. Other places want to see 1300. Again, we tap into the locale settings on your phone to automatically determine this for you automatically, which is nice. But you can also use the hour cycle property if you want finer grained control. And then lastly, pretty similar to the other ones, is the day of the week. Some places, Sunday is the starting day of the week, Monday in other places. So you can use the first day of the week property to customize that, which is really nice as well. So we've got a lot of really awesome localization features that work right out of the box, but we also give you a lot of additional properties for advanced customization. We're adding more all the time. We have plans to add a lot more localization features. So definitely stay tuned for that and give us your feedback on our GitHub repo as well to let us know what you'd like to see. So this is my top favorite. I love datetime, but this is my top favorite feature in Ionic 6, which is the new bottom sheet functionality. So one thing to note here is it's actually added as part of Ion Modal. So it's not a new component, but it's part of Ion Modal. So if you're trying to find documentation for this, go to the modal documentation and you'll find the usage examples for the bottom sheet. So the bottom sheet is a really nice component. It gives you this swipeable sheet that has different snapping points, but also overlays content. So in this example, you have a sheet that overlays an interactive map, sort of like Google Maps or Apple Maps. So you can customize all the breakpoints, all the different snapping points. You can customize the point at which the modal initially opens to. And then that backdrop breakpoint lets you customize when the backdrop, like the sort of like the black background that fades in, you can customize when that becomes active. And that's going to let you control when exactly the content behind the bottom sheet is or is not interactive. We've already seen a lot of people start to do some really cool things with this, and we've gotten a lot more suggestions for ways we can improve upon this component. So we're definitely looking to beef up this component as we go. So again, check out the modal documentation for your bottom sheet usages, and we can't wait to see what you build. All right, so this is a lesser known feature, but I think it's a really big improvement to the developer experience. So in Ionic 5 and before, when you wanted to present a modal or a popover, you needed to import the modal controller, provide it to your constructor if you're using an Angular app, do modalcontroller.create, then modalcontroller.present or modal.present. And it was a lot of boilerplate just to get a modal or a popover working. In Ionic 6, we've made it so that you can write modal and popover components declaratively right in your template. So you don't need to use the controller anymore. You can just write ion-modal and pass in your content. It's really, really nice. We've also added this is open property that gives you fine-grained control over when the modal or is not open. We've also added a trigger property, which we'll see, I believe, in the next slide, that lets you pass in the ID of a button. And so what will happen is whenever you click that button, we will automatically present that modal or popover for you. So it really cuts down on a lot of the boilerplate for presenting these overlay components. And the reception has been so far pretty positive. I think this is a change that has been a long time coming, and I'm excited to see how people use this API. All right, so similar, we've added new APIs to Popover as well. So previously, it was fairly difficult to customize like the sizing and the position and the alignment of popovers. In Ionic 5, typically the popover was displayed right below your button. In Ionic 6, we added a side property that lets you customize exactly where the popover is positioned relative to the button. So you can have it display above the button, to the left of the button, to the bottom of the button, things like that. We've also added options to make it RTL aware. So if you want to have it display at the start or end positions based upon your RTL preference, you can do that as well. We've also added an alignment property, so you can align the popover relative to the button, so you can have it centered, as you see in the demo right here. You can also have it aligned with the ending edge or the starting edge. And you see that trigger property again. You can pass in the ID of a button, and then clicking that button will automatically present the popover, which is really nice. And then finally, this size property, I believe, was added as a result of user feedback. So in older versions of Ionic, getting your popover to be the same size as your button, like if you want to have the popover look like a drop-down menu, it's desirable to have the popover be the same width as the button. It was pretty difficult to do that. Like you had to get the width of the button, you had to apply it to the popover, and then you could present it. With Ionic 6, we make it really, really easy. So you use size equals cover, and we will automatically determine that size for you and size the popover to be the appropriate width. Same thing you can see in the demo on the right. We're using size cover to show the popover to be the same width as the button. So a lot of new customization options for Popover. Again, give us your feedback on GitHub. We want to see how you're using it. We want to see different ways for us to improve upon these APIs. All right, so Vue users have some nice updates as well. So in Ionic 5, if you wanted to navigate or route to a new page and you wanted to customize the animation as you see here, right? You do router link, you set the page. You'd also provide the router animation. And this was fine, but what if you wanted to say, click a button, send off some sort of async network request, and then route while customize the animation? In Ionic 5, you couldn't do that. You couldn't say, click a button, do an async request, and then programmatically route while controlling the animation. In Ionic 6, we've added a use ion router injectable into Ionic Vue. And so what this lets you do is it lets you programmatically navigate whenever you want. So you can do that async network request and then do router.navigate, provide the page, but you can still have full control over every single animation that you're routing with, which is a really, really powerful feature. All right, this one is a pretty cool one. So platform detection. So we've had all these platform detection methods for many, many versions, right? It lets you detect if you're running on a desktop device, a mobile device, a tablet, things like that. But the feedback that we've gotten is that people have a desire to customize the platform detection methods, whether they want to completely override it or just extend it in some way. And with Ionic 6, you can do that. So you can provide to your global config specific platform detection method that you want to override. And that's really, really powerful if you have certain devices that need to fit different use cases where Ionic isn't meeting them right now. This gives you full control over how exactly platform detection is determined. And this one is a pretty cool one as well. I think all these features are cool, but I'm biased. So this one is definitely a cool one though. So in Ionic 5, when you had to call methods on event targets, there were some TypeScript errors that people would run into, and the workarounds weren't ideal. So take this example, for instance. You have an ion infinite scroll component, and when the ion infinite event fires, you have a callback that takes event and calls event.target.complete. So you're calling the complete method on the event target, which in this case is the ion infinite scroll component. The problem is that it's a type custom event. So TypeScript doesn't know that your event target is an infinite scroll component. And as a result, it doesn't know that the complete method is supposed to be there. And so what you get is a TypeScript error. Now, people were working around it by typecasting the event target as any, but that definitely wasn't an ideal workaround. So in Ionic 6, we've introduced custom event interfaces for every single Ionic component that emits an event. So instead of doing that workaround, in this case, you would import Ion Infinite custom event, and you would use that as the type. And what that does is it informs TypeScript and says, hey, event.target is an Ion Infinite scroll component. That way TypeScript knows, oh, okay, the complete method exists. You don't have to do that typecasting anymore. It works right out of the box. This is another one that we added as a result of user feedback. So I think this is a great addition to Ionic 6. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about performance and tooling. So in Ionic 6, we launched a new build of Ionic that we call the Custom Elements build. All this build does is it helps the compiler, helps the bundler, pull in only the information, only the code that it needs to build your app. So the end result is that in Ionic 6, you can expect to see smaller bundle sizes as a result of this build. Especially in React and Vue apps, you're going to see a dramatic reduction in the size of your bundled applications. What this also means, and I'm very excited about this, is that it means we can add support for Vite, Rollup, ESBuild, and more, giving you more ways than ever to build Ionic applications. You know, I was using an Ionic Vue app with Vite the other day, and man, is it fast. Ionic Vue is fast, Vite is fast. I mean, Vite is French for fast, so I guess it makes sense, but it's still blown away by how fast it is. So we're really excited to see how you build apps in new and interesting ways. Again, give us your feedback on GitHub. We want to hear all the ways that we can improve. Okay, so migrating, right? As I said before, migrating to Ionic 6 is really easy. We're very mindful of all the breaking changes that we make. And so with Ionic 6, we've actually made fewer breaking changes in Ionic 6 than there were in Ionic 5. So that's all to say, if you found the upgrade to Ionic 5 easy, you're going to find the upgrade to Ionic 6 even easier. You can visit that link at the bottom, ionic.link/update-v6. But luckily for us, we have Mike here today, who is going to show us how to migrate all of our applications to Ionic 6.
Awesome. I'm so excited about this. We got a lot of people in the chat who are excited for Vite and want to see that happen. I do too. But for now, we're going to focus on the migration. So Liam, I will bring you back in a moment. So relax a little bit. And let me know. I know that some folks are saying that my audio is pretty quiet. I've hopefully adjusted it to be a little bit louder. So just give me a little confirmation the audio is sounding good. But what we're going to do is migrate 3 different apps here. So I have a Vue app, React app, and an Angular app. And we're going to walk through the process of migrating this and updating it to V6, as well as looking at some of our dependencies in each project to make sure that they are also on the latest versions as well. So let's start off with Vue. This was something that, I saw a few people confused when they were starting to upgrade, because Vue provides their own Vue upgrade command. Now, this is great when things go perfectly well, but it doesn't always work out that smoothly in certain situations, especially, when we first released Ionic 6, because Vue upgrade would give you Vue 2 dependencies, which is not going to be a great time for users, and people are going to have broken apps. So I don't recommend folks using this Vue upgrade command. What I suggest is, first off, look at your package.json. Make sure that you have something that is relatively recent. We are using all of the Vue CLI plugins that are compared against the starter projects. If those dependencies and build tools look right, we can move on. But if they don't, update those before you do anything. To upgrade the actual app itself, we're just going to run npm install @Ionic. And I'm just going to cheat here real quick because I'm on a Mac, and I can do this curly brace view comma view hyphen router to get both dependencies installed at the same time. And I'm going to give them a @6 tag to make sure I'm pulling in the 6.0 or the 6.x version of each of these dependencies. So let's let these do an install real quick. And with that run, let's go ahead and try to see what we have in our app. Literally, this is just a Ionic Vue starter project, and all we've done is upgrade from V5 to V6. And let's run our dev server. So we'll just run Ionic serve, which is going to run the Vue CLI service. Now, fingers crossed we can get that switch over to Vite, but for the time being, we'll use the Vue CLI service. And hey, everything is up to date. I haven't had to go through all these magic hoops. All the components and all the routing still work. So for Vue users, you pretty much have an easy upgrade process by just installing the latest dependencies. You don't have to go and modify a whole lot about your setup. The routing still works the same as you are used to, and all of the components that you're using behave the same. You just get those nice new features when you want to get there. For React, we have a little bit of a different story because we do have a new feature in React that Liam did not mention. First and foremost, let's go check out our packages. We are using Ionic React. We are on version 5.9.3. And we have an updated version of all of our dependencies. If we are looking at React scripts, we're using version 5 of React scripts. So all of our tooling and everything there, that's all up to date. Again, like Vue, if your tools and your dependencies in here are not up to date, update them first before going to the latest version of Ionic, just to make sure you're not doing multiple things at once. Make sure I had that dev server destroyed. And to install the latest versions, what we're going to do is run npm install @Ionic React and React Router and give it the 6.0 version. Now, this will go through, download, and install all those dependencies. It should only take a few seconds, which is great. And then I'm going to run a new dev server here. And I'm going to open up my editor and do some quick little window management. There we go. Now, for React users, once you upgrade to V6, don't do anything. You're probably going to see a blank UI. Basically, nothing's in the screen, and that is for a good reason. In V6, we introduced this new function called Setup Ionic React. Now, Setup Ionic React allows us to basically have a way to provide all of the Ionic functionality and utilities before React actually bootstraps itself. So with Setup Ionic React imported, we can just say call Setup Ionic React. We can pass it an optional config, whether or not we want to change the mode, how we want to define the new platforms, as Liam showed us earlier. All we need to do is just call that. In this case, put a semicolon, not a colon there, right? Let our dev server kind of reload real quick. And hey, our app is up and running. And for the most part, React users, you are good to go. You have your app running. You can go on, migrate through the different components, add those new features, add those breakpoints to the modals, and have a pretty awesome app like Liam built for the demo. Kind of closing it off, we have our longtime favorite Angular, or at least my longtime favorite Angular. And let's see what we got here. Inside of our package JSON, we have Angular 12, and we have Ionic Angular version 5.9.3. Okay, so we have a few things that we can do here, and this will be the most involved version of our upgrades. So let's kind of walk through it one by one. What we first want to do is install Ionic v6. So we'll do npm install at Ionic 6, or at Ionic Angular at 6, and let this kind of download and install. And if you just do this, your app should be up and running just fine. Ionic 6 works back with both Angular 12 and the latest release of Angular version 13. But if you want to go all the way, we can update all of our dependencies at the same time to also get an updated Angular environment and also some updated Angular tools. So let's just go ng update Angular core, and I don't need to pass in that flag because I'm not in a Git repository, but we're just going to update the core Angular packages and then our CLI. Now, this is just going to do some temporary stuff. We got this force flag in here. You don't necessarily need to do this. I unfortunately do need to do this because I have some weird issue with npm currently on my machine. Your machine may be different. On my machine, I need to do this because I don't update everything. So with those ng update commands, we get the latest versions of Angular, all of its dependencies and its libraries. This one is now going from version 12 to 13.2.2. So we have all of the latest Angular tools that you're expected to use. Give it just a little bit. And don't mind me, I'm just going to bump the font size down a little bit. Cool. Now, with the update and installation completed, Angular is going to go ahead and do some updates to our projects, making sure that we have all these code mods run. So all of our project basically gets like a nice little reset and maintenance quality of life improvements added. One of the best ones, I think, is this. If I can scroll back, adding this Angular cache. So now Angular 13 is going to do some incremental caching of all your builds. We don't need to store that cache folder in the version control, so we can just add it to the git ignore. And now let's double check our package.json. We have Angular 13 for all of our build tools, and we have Angular 13 in all of our dependencies. The last thing we probably want to do is this Angular ESLint package. Now, Angular ESLint is optional. You do not need to do this if you don't want to. You don't actually I'm not sure if we actually provide it by default. I recently updated it to include the new stuff, but in this case, we need to update this from version 12 to version 13. They keep their version in sync with Angular, so we should update this as well. What we can do is npm install at Angular ESLint, and instead of me just trying to make sure I can guess every single package that they have in there, we're just going to go full screen real quick, and we're going to make use of those curly brackets to do builder ESLint plugin, ESLint plugin template, and template parser at latest. Let that do its thing. Fingers crossed I typed that out all correctly. I practice a little bit just to make sure I did it right. And hey, I did it perfect. Yes. All right. Now let's run our server just to make sure we have things working well here. It'll go through and do our little dev server generation. And while that is running, I'm just going to do some quick window management. And cool, our app is running. We have a modal over here working as intended. We have the new date time that is, well, this is going to be something that we'll need to update. And we can do this real quickly here if we have some time. This is on tab 2, and we can do page.oh. Let's go to tab 2, tab2.page. All right, so what's different in this case is now that datetime is an inline component and not necessarily a overlay component as we had it in v5. We can easiest solution that we can do is to drop that out, throw that over here, and now these components are tied to different use case, are tied to different contexts. We don't need to have the click targets kind of overlapping, but I have a blog post that is coming out, fingers crossed, tomorrow. That's going to deep dive into the datetime component, and I'm going to show you some of the new UI paradigms that you can do with datetime component. Things like using it in the accordion, using it as a overlay with modals, and even popover, and show you how to customize this to your heart's content. I'm really, really thrilled with this. I know Liam says datetime is his second favorite component in V6. It is my favorite component in V6, so I'm excited about it. I just love this. Plus, it's all scroll wheel, so it's not actually using like our old JavaScript scrolling implementation, so it's all super accessible by default, which huge fan of this. So with that minimal work involved, we updated some dependencies, made a few changes to our project. Specifically in React, we added this setup React call. And then in Angular, we updated not only our Angular Ionic Angular version, but also our Angular dependencies and toolchains like ESLint. What else is there left to do? Well, this was something that kind of wrote about and we kind of talked about, but I don't think it's as common right now. And that's, we've made this update to this Ionic Angular toolkit package. This is one that I snuck in there, and it's behind a major version flag, so not everyone will get it by default. You can run this npm install at Ionic Angular toolkit at latest, and it's going to get you the latest version of the Angular toolkit. So this is going to give you all of the page generators that you are used to having with Angular, but it also removed something from your project. Since we default to giving you a capacitor project, but when you start a new project, you no longer need to have these custom build tools for Ionic Cordova. You can literally take those, delete them from your Angular JSON, and you are good to go. If you still need them, there's a new package that we can show, and I believe it's npm js and packages at Ionic Cordova builders. This is our builders for all of the Cordova toolkits that you are used to using if you are still on Cordova. To add it to your project, you keep these in here. You change the name from Angular Toolkit in both of these tasks to Cordova Builders, and that's it. So if you are still on Cordova, don't worry, we have you covered. We have these updates in there as well. But if you've gone all in on Capacitor, you don't need these anymore. You can delete them from your project fully and get to building your app even faster. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. I'll make sure to include all of this code in a Git repo and share a link afterwards. And we'll also have a blog post kind of going over some of these updates after we wrap up here. But I'm going to turn it back to Liam, who's going to walk us through the future of what do we have coming next. So Liam, I'll let you get your slides ready. Back up and take it away.
Hello. All right. So we went over migrating. Thank you, Mike, so much. That was amazing. Super, super easy. Let's talk about what's next. So I can't disclose too much, but I do want to give a taste of what we're working on now and what you can expect to see in the near future. So a few things. So we're really looking to enhance the existing features that we shipped in Ionic 6. So the datetime component, the bottom sheet component, we're looking to add additional features to those as opposed to adding separate components. So we want to really enhance bottom sheet, datetime, things like that, and make sure they are good to go before we move on to other things. So you can expect to see new, exciting features to datetime, bottom sheet, accordion, and more over the coming weeks and months. The second thing that we're looking to do is really looking to bolster our documentation. What we're working on right now is a really exciting improvement to component interactivity, right? So right now you go to our documentation for each component. Wouldn't it be nice to see little examples, live examples that you can play with and see of every single little customization and feature for each Ionic component? So that's what we're working on right now. You'll be able to go see the little example running right in your browser that you can interact with. And you will be able to open things in a StackBlitz or a CodePen and edit code live. You will also be able to get snippets of code that you can copy and paste into your applications, and they will be version specific. So you'll get Angular code, React code, Vue code, Vanilla.js code, all that good stuff. So we're really excited to get that out the door. We're still working on it. It'll take us a little bit longer, but we think that's going to be a huge improvement to Ionic. Beyond that, there's a lot more. Can't quite talk about it yet, but I can safely say that 2022 is going to be a very, very big year for Ionic. So stay tuned. All right. I think now we have some time for questions.
Yes, we do. We got a few questions kind of already in the chat, but I do want to ask you, Liam, first. Why is the bottom modal or bottom sheet your favorite component, and why are you wrong?
Okay, so Mike, I love all my features equally. I just love the bottom sheet more. Okay, it's not hard to understand. They're all equal, but like bottom sheet is my favorite. Something about bottom sheet, it feels native, like that snapping gesture, the animations, that it's smooth, buttery smooth on every single device, Android, iOS. It feels like it was ripped out of a native application. Datetime does too, but there's something special about bottom sheet that just really clicks with me.
Now I get it. That's why I still go to like the side menu as one of my favorite components, because it's just that like swipe gesture interaction. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know the web could do that. That was like years ago when I found Ionic, so still holds true to this day. Cool. So it looks like we got a few questions coming into the chat. Let's go ahead and start off. So we got one from Liz. Is there any way to roll back if an update doesn't go as intended? Yes. So we've already got kind of an answer in the chat, but you should be using some form of version control. If you are not, invest in some version control. Git. If you're not, you can do what I did when I was in art school and just select the folder, make a backup, and then just say pre-update for the archive name. And then if everything goes well, you don't need that archive anymore. You can delete it. But commits, branches, do whatever you can to keep things in version control. There is another great question. And this one is going to be on Datepicker. Datepicker still has a lot of feature requests on GitHub. Will these be considered for fixing all bugs? Liam, did you want to comment on GitHub?
We're doing both at once. So when Ionic 6 first launched, we focused solely on bugs. There's a little bit of polish that still needs to happen even when a piece of software ships. So we really wanted to polish it. Datetime is in a really good state right now in terms of some of those higher priority bugs that came in. We are working through some features right now. We're in the design phase, so we're doing design documents to figure out the scope of each feature, all the requirements, what it should and shouldn't do. But I can safely say that we're doing both at once. If we're working on features, we're not ignoring bug fixes, and if we're working on bug fixes, we're not ignoring features. So we're doing both right now.
So expect to see things addressed, and if not, Liam, we'll have something to pay for.
You know my Twitter handle. You can
Yeah,
DM me.
you can tweet at him. Here's a good question. Are there any considerations if you are supporting multiple Ionic apps and don't want to update or upgrade all of them? I would say if you're using multiple Ionic apps, hopefully you're using something like a monorepo. I know NX is super popular. So is Lerna. You can kind of maintain separate dependencies per project. I know that there is a global dependencies that you can manage, and then you can have kind of sub dependencies per project. You can just do that sub dependencies per project if you are doing a monorepo. That's probably going to be your best case if you don't want to upgrade all of them. I would strongly suggest, though, upgrading all of them to make sure that you're not leaving your projects behind, and then eventually, when a new release does come out, you're not going to have to go through the work of updating to two major versions, which could be equally painful. So, yeah, if you're using monorepos, that should help, but don't wait too long, I would say. Another great question for this one from Raz Gola Argolia. I know from Twitch. How can I help, Liam? How can people help?
Yes, absolutely. So there is an Ionic-docs repo on GitHub. We are accepting contributions to that repo. So if you go on our docs website and you find a page you want to help with translation, or you see a typo, or you want to contribute some way, there should be like an edit this page button somewhere on the page. I believe it's down near the bottom. If you click that, it'll take you to the GitHub repo where you can make your changes. Again, you can also clone the repo and make your changes and see the changes in real time. But yeah, we would love to see any kind of contribution to Ionic docs.
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do to make sure that you are helping is either post an issue, send a PR, or even just open up a topic on the forum. That way we can talk you through it before you go and do everything, and potentially not do something that's going to be in line with our vision. Michael has a great question. Is every single bit of functionality available for every framework? Or is there anything where it's like, oh, this is only available in Vue, or this is only available in React and Angular?
Yeah, great question. So in general, yes, all of our components are compatible: Vue, Angular, React, Vanilla.js. There's a few framework-specific things. So for example, Virtual Scroll, you're going to use one package for Angular, one package for Vue, one package for React. That's because they're third-party libraries. So I believe it's CDK Scroller for Angular, Virtuoso for React, and then I forget the name of the Vue package, but there's another package for Vue. But in terms of the Ionic UI components, they're all compatible across the board. You're going to get the same properties, the same methods, the same events.
So everything should be supported across all the projects. This one I'm very excited about. Any plans for Svelte support, Liam?
So the good news is that due to the way Ionic was built, you can actually use Ionic components in Svelte today. You might not get like super tight form integration, but you can still use them just because they're web components. We don't have, like, in the sense of like an Ionic/Angular package, we don't have an Ionic Svelte package, but you can still use Ionic UI components in Svelte today.
I have not tried it. I know some folks have been super gung-ho about getting Svelte support in there, but hey, if it can just work without a package, why do we need it? This is a really, really nice question, and it's a little bit on me because I didn't show it. Is there I didn't mention anything about switching from Ion Slides to Swiper. Is it because it's backwards compatible for the moment? So Liam.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. In order to upgrade to Ionic 6, you do not need to do anything with Ion Slides. What we did in Ionic 6 is we deprecated Ion slides in favor of using Swiper.js, the third-party library, on its own. So Ion slides is already powered by Swiper.js, but there were a few issues with the current implementation, such as the version was locked. So I think it's locked to Swiper 5, or they're up to Swiper 8 right now. And at the point of which we developed Ionic 4, there was no framework-specific integrations for like React and Vue and Swiper, and so we built Ion slides to sort of help ease those pain points. Flash forward to now, Swiper.js has Vue, React, Angular integration, so there's really no need for us to maintain Ion slides anymore. All of the benefits that you got in Ion slides is now found in the Swiper.js library. So we deprecated in Ionic 6. It's still there. Ion slides is still there. You can continue to use it. But what we recommend is moving off Ion slides to Swiper.js. On our docs website, there is a step-by-step guide for every framework to show you how to do that. So Angular has its own guide, React has its own guide, Vue has its own guide. You'll have about a year from the point at which Ionic, this deprecation was announced, to say Ionic 7. That's when we plan on removing it. So you still have plenty of time to migrate.
That's awesome. I know slides and Swiper have been a very, very popular component. So glad to see that we have some backwards compatibility there in preparation for the eventual removal from the core. This one is showing up. We got a few people asking this, and so I don't know which one to select from the chat to show, but we do have someone asking what is going to be the best way if they haven't upgraded yet, they're still on Ionic 4 in Angular 9, or older versions that are going to require quite a bit of update. What's going to be the best way to moving forward to get onto the latest stuff? I have my opinions. Liam, what are yours?
So if you're on Ionic 4 right now, there's good news. It's pretty easy. So what I'd recommend is I'd first do the migration from Ionic 4 to Ionic 5. I wouldn't go right to Ionic 6. It's going to be too easy to miss certain breaking changes. So I would upgrade from Ionic 4 to Ionic 5 first. Make sure everything is working, commit your code, push it to a branch. And then once you're confident everything is working, then go to that Ionic 6 migration guide and upgrade your app to Ionic 6.
Yeah, for the folks who maybe are coming from earlier releases, I saw someone asking about V3 to 6, and specifically with the Angular changes in mind, I would strongly suggest just start a new project and start to migrate the features of your app kind of piece by piece. Instead of having to go through the manual migration process, it can be nice to just start fresh and add things over into your new project. Not only does it give you a way to kind of evaluate what code that you already have, is your components doing everything that they should be, are they introducing potentially any slowness? This could be a great way for you to start just migrating things over and not have to deal with the manual update process. You just start from fresh and you can add those features in component by component. This includes going from Ionic 3 to Ionic 6, and Ionic 4 to Ionic 6, or Angular 9 to Angular 13. Cool. So we got a few questions in here that are kind of a little bit off topic. I do have one question. Here we go. Is there any documentation for the event types that come with Ionic 6? I just found the pull request with all the type information. Where can people find out what types are, what events are available for each component?
Yeah, so on our documentation page, if you search for, say, Ion Infinite Scroll, because that's the example I used, if you go to the component page for Ion Infinite Scroll and scroll down, there's a section, I believe, called Interfaces that should show you all the different interfaces, the exact contents of the interfaces, all the different properties. So that's where you can find it.
Cool. So double check each of the documentation pages, folks. Those
and make sure you're on the V6 docs, not the V5 doc, because it's a V6 feature.
Cool. Last little thing, and then I think we can call it Ionic 7? Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what time will tell.
We'll see what I'm feeling at the time,
Yeah. Liam really is the one who holds all the keys, and he will determine whether or not we need a new major version?
Whenever we release a major version, it's a tradition at Ionic to ask whoever's in charge, so when's the next version coming out? Like every single time when Ionic 4 came out, I was like, all right, when's Ionic 5 coming out? Ionic 5 came out, all right, when's Ionic 6 coming out? So this is going to continue to the end of time, I expect.
Oh, most definitely. It will be all in good fun, but we will always ask Liam, hey, when's this next thing coming out? Uh, cool. All right. It looks like we still have a few questions coming in, but we're roughly around our time. So folks who we didn't get to your questions, please join the Ionic forum, forum.ionicframework.com. Please ask your questions there. We'll be hanging out. I'll be hanging out there for a little bit, just trying to go through some of them. Please join. We'd love to get your questions asked. But thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Liam, for your presentation. I know the community was really excited about this. So yeah, thank you all. All right, let's end this broadcast. Take care, everyone.